Hi everybody, this is Julie Quinn and I'm going to create a quick video tutorial on some of the terms that have come up this week. One or two of you have been a little bit confused about what is a citation versus what is quoting, and I thought this could be a good refresher or a reminder. Note that the handout for this video will appear, the handout that's in this video in this Word document will appear at the bottom of the video in the announcement so that you have access to both. Okay. So citation, the word citation, it's also called an in-text citation. So also in text, they mean the same thing. And what it is it's when you name your source in the sentence. So when you're doing exercises for class that involve summarizing an article, when you're borrowing data from a website that goes into a paper in this class or in a future class, you always have to name your source. That is the in-text citation. The citation just means you're citing the name of where you got the content from. Okay, so there's two ways to do that. There's way one and way two. The first example is when you name your source in the body of the sentence itself. Marcus argues that, and you'll notice that I've got it highlighted here just to make it pop for you. You don't highlight it in your own writing, but Marcus 2019, and that's APA style. MLA and APA always, both of them say you have to name your author, but APA is science writing for the most part that relies on the currency or the timeliness of when an article is submitted. So adding the copyright year is really important. So when you're doing APA in-text citation or citations, you would have the copyright year. You'll notice on my below example of MLA, it's the exact same content, but the difference is that there is just the name of the author and no copyright year. That's all an in-text citation is. And you'll notice that there's different ways to do it. You can name the author at the beginning of the sentence, in the middle of the sentence, or as an addendum or addition to the sentence at the very end. It's nice when you're writing academically that you have some variety with those in-text citations. You don't always want to just stick them at the end of every sentence. That's overkill. Future assignments or future videos that I've got will show you how to do what's called bookending a source, where maybe the first time you name a source, you name it like this, where we know where the borrowing begins. And then say Marcus is a woman. Actually, Marcus is a man if you look at the actual article. But so we'll say it's a man. Marcus argues that. And then your next sentence, if you're continuing to borrow, he points out. So you can do what we call a signal phrase to Marcus that we know. And then we know where, then the last sentence of where the borrowing ends, put the in-text citation in a parenthetical, just like this one right here. So when we say citation, it means when you name your source very clearly. Okay, so you see examples of MLA and examples of APA. I think what's most important in freshman composition writing classes is consistency. Choose a style and stick with it. APA is more for the science-oriented, social and hard sciences like psych or biology, criminal justice for sure, MLA for students in the humanities. If you don't know which style, definitely ask your professor. We'll talk to you about what your major is, and we can help you narrow that down. So this is what an in-text citation is. It's really simple. Now, the confusion for one or two students tended to be that they were worried that they were mistaking what a quote is with what a citation is. A quote is the word-for-word borrowing when you copy something that Marcus specifically said and you don't change anything and you put it in your essay. You will definitely have to have, I'm going to highlight everything but the quotes for just a second here. You're required to have these quote marks for any word-to-word quoting. Quoting is word for word. You still cite, so this is an MLA example, right? Let's see, Marcus, what did I say, 2019? And actually, I think the Marcus source was actually 2018, but I'll update that through the file, just so when I'm practicing this, I just want to make sure that I'm always accurate. Your copyright years want to match what's going to end up being in your reference entry. But a quote has both in-text citation and the word for word quoting. That's a quote, okay? Now, here's what it looks like in MLA style with no copyright year. Here's what a similar thing. So one other notation I want to make is you're not always going to have the opportunity to just straight quote everything. Quoting is not actually all that sophisticated. All it shows is that you know how to cut and paste. Paraphrasing, and I do have prior videos that I've gone over this with, so check those out. They should be in the announcements. But paraphrasing is putting it in your own words to show that you understand, that you can explain it, to show concept mastery, right? So in this example, I have my in-text citation. I'm just showing you APA style, just did practice. And the original quote was, the result is that bachelor's degree recipients take and pay for 15 credits on average, an entire semester more than they need. We always name our source, even in paraphrase. So we're putting it on words, but it's not our ideas. This acknowledges the ideas came from somewhere else. It says students who change their major will often end up taking an additional semester of extra courses. So it's not the exact word-for-word phrasing, but the sentiment is the same. Okay. Normally, you can paraphrase something that's a little bit longer. You can condense it. You paraphrase for different audiences, but you see with paraphrase and with quote, you must use an in-text citation. I'm going to highlight those now in green. And text citation there, and text citation there. And again, the only differences are one's MLA for students who are using MLA, and one's an example of APA. Now, from your high school classes, you may remember asked to create a bibliography. A bibliography has to do with finding your sources, and biblio is sort of that core word in Romance. It's like a core for like bibliothèque, I think in French is the word for library. So it's this word that, and it probably is back on the Latin, right? Latin or French, but it means your library, your academic sources. So when we say bibliography, or when we say works cited, or when we say references, all we're really talking about is what's the list of the entire piece of data of where you got your information. So when you're practicing doing a summary, when you're practicing quoting and starting to layer in data into an essay, you have to name your sources in every paragraph where you name them. So in the body, imagine this is part of one of my body paragraphs, right? We name Marcus, but in this, you're not required to use his full name. And as a matter of fact, maybe the first time you mention him in a sentence, you can, but then after that, you just say Marcus. That's academic naming conventions. But I want to know the full entry. I don't know where you found that information. So that's what a bibliography does. It is the works cited in MLA or the references in APA of the entry. So I went to, for MLA, EasyBib, and I took the URL of this particular Hechinger report article, and I got author name, the title of the entry, the name of the website, the copyright date, and the URL. And it formatted it for me. Sometimes it doesn't format it exactly, and you kind of have to go through and double check that the capitalization's the same. It's got the author name and all of that. But the information came out like 90% accurate. So when you're doing work like a summary or you're doing a draft of an essay, I think it's best practices if a student is naming their source like Tan, Abraxam, or Sedaris in the body paragraphs, where you're borrowing data through paraphrase or through quote, right? And then at the end, you will have the name of your source there. Like I have Marcus's name here, and I have two examples of the same entry, just in different styles. So when you're working on it, when we say a works cited, so for notes that I've left on some homework was that if you were doing a works cited entry, you're going to have a list of author name, title, publisher, copyright, and URL. APA is a little bit less, and the order's a little bit different. They do last name, first initial, copyright, the title in what's called sentence casing, so the capitalization's a little bit different, but EasyBib did most of the work here, or for APA, citation machine. Then it said retrieve from the URL. The one thing that they don't require is the name of the website, okay? So It just depends on what style you're choosing. So use those style guides, the MLA and the APA style guides they have access to. I mean, I'm a big fan of Purdue OWL. So if you go onto the web and you use Purdue OWLs, you can do that. But remember, this handout is just to sort of explain some basic terms as a quick, oh, and I spelled paraphrasing wrong. Thanks, spell checker. So in the end, an in-text citation. So the word cite appears in a couple places. The citation is when you name the source somewhere in a body paragraph, a summary paragraph or a body paragraph of an essay. Okay, that's an in-text citation. That's what's highlighted in yellow on this screen. Then, when you write those body paragraphs, you'll be doing one of two things, quoting or paraphrasing. You can see on this page, in these two examples, the in-text citations are highlighted in green, and when you quote, you have to use double quotes. Those are in yellow. Quoting is word-for-word borrowing. Paraphrasing, you still name your source in an in-text citation, but you put it entirely in your own words. Okay? Finally, when you want to build a draft of an essay, it's important to practice giving the full data, and usually it's on its own page at the very end of the essay. It's either called works cited if you're doing MLA, or it's called references if you're doing APA. And here's an example of both. Now, I will embed this handout, and I'll also include links to EasyBib and Citation Machine in this announcement. And if you don't see it, email me. Sometimes I forget, and let me know, and I will send those to you. Let me know if you have any questions. I really hope this helps you work on the draft of the essay that we're growing together. Take care.